In today's episode, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Stuart Cooke, who's friends with Dr. Paul Saladino. Stu's based here in Australia. He runs Ancestral Nutrition, which is a beef organ company here. And this episode is loaded with gold on nutrition for performance, fat loss, metabolic health, building muscle, longevity. It is one of the best conversations I've had on nutrition, longevity and health, metabolic health in particular, in a long time. What I would like to say, Zoom was doing Zoom things, so apologies for the size of the video. Enjoy anyway, and we would love your feedback, so leave any comments below. Speak soon. Yo, we've got a big guest on today, my man Stuart Cooke. He's up in Byron Bay in Australia, and he's the, in my opinion, you're the health guru, man, right? Because full transparency, right? I said before, you got me over the line with the animal-based diet and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously, I read the carnivore code, and that tipped me over the edge. And it's like even with the Aura ring, and even things like I was thinking earlier, like the headphones when you have the
Yes.
wireless ones, and I saw you, and you were like, "Look, you got to untangle them," but I'd
Yeah.
rather not take. So there's people you look up to, right? I don't want to make you sound embarrassed. You're gonna go all red and shit now. You're gonna be like, this is too much for an intro, but it's like there's people you look up to in different areas of life, and with health you're the main guy for me, man, to be honest. And yeah, I appreciate you firstly, but secondly, how's everything going, man?
It's good. Yeah, it's really good. I think it's just a continual journey of learning, right? The more data you get, the more theories you investigate and you trial on yourself, the more you realize that health is just this continual evolution of twists and tangles, left turns, right turns, forks in the road. What worked before doesn't work anymore, and then ultimately, all I want to do I want to continue to do everything I do today until I die, to a degree. I want to be mobile. I want to walk. I want to sleep well. I want to be clear of mind. I want to be full of energy, and I just don't want any illness, sickness, and any of that kind of stuff, which is ultimately going to be inevitable, so we're told. And so I'm intrigued by the fascinating world of health, and all of the misconceptions that we are just bombarded with in this kind of crazy world of the internet, social media, and now we've got AI to contend with.
Exactly. I'm going to plug your podcast right at the start as well. It's called the Health Sessions, and you've had some of the biggest experts in the world in terms of health. It's called the Health Sessions for a reason. You need to go check that out, right? So I'm going to plug that at the start. It's incredible, the content on there. And with nutrition, though, right? Because you were saying you want to live as long as you can. Three daughters, right? If I remember rightly.
Three daughters, yeah.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
got a family. Hey, best of luck with that, man. I don't know God,
Oh,
what that was all about, man. I heard someone the other day say white wine, apparently. Some Aussie guy, he goes, drink white wine, you get gills. He said, I drank red wine, I've only had boys. But you don't drink. So.
I wish I'd have known that. I mean, we have the most hormonal household. I mean, I'm coming out the back end of it now because I had twins when our first daughter was 2.5 years old. So now my eldest daughter is 20 and she's left for uni, and the twins are they're coming up to their last year at school, and then they'll be going to uni as well. So the house will be empty. It'll be a joy.
It'll be a joy, but that'll be an interesting one, right? Because people say that it's a joy initially, because like, I can only imagine, man, three girls go through all those hormonal changes.
Oh
my. Say less, you know what I mean? I got one to deal with now, and now she's good. She might be lifted to this, gotta be careful.
Coming your way, mate. That's true.
100%. I think I might, because we're looking to have kids, God willing. We're getting married in November anyway. So Brazil, that's the plan, man. So and then after that, we're gonna be trying for kids and stuff, man. So let's see what happens there, man. You know what I
mean? Be careful what you wish for.
I know, 100%. But yeah, just to switch gears, I want to get straight into nutrition, right? Because I know last time when we talked about, obviously I just said you introduced me to the animal-based diet. I know you've been on a journey of your own. You created your own, whole company in the past, right? Which was based all on whole food supplements and everything else. Where are you at now, Stu? How do you look at nutrition now? And, how are you eating? What have you learned from the guests you've had on? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, back in the day, I think I had the good fortune of being exposed to lots of different health experts who were proposing that this is the best way to eat for optimal health. So everything from plant-based, vegan, Mediterranean, all the way through to paleo, carnivore, herbivore, everything in between. And I tried a lot I tried a lot of different diets on myself just to see how I felt, and nothing really stuck. Um, Actually, loaded up with plants and I got bloated. And of course, in the early days, you're as green as anything. And you think, yeah, I'm going to eat 3 huge salad bowls a day, and don't realize that that's probably a little bit too much fiber for the body to comfortably process when you haven't been eating that much. It's kind of slow and steady. If you want to increase your plants, then don't expect that you're going to be able to do it overnight. Um, and then the question comes in, well, do I want to increase my plants? Because the carnivore guys are saying, well, this is a radically different approach, and we don't need fiber, and you've got plant toxins and everything under the sun, and you can keep it as simple as you can. And then I went to the other end of the spectrum and just consumed meat and fruit, and that was kind of good for a while, and always still enjoyed my carbohydrates with some sweet potatoes and a little bit of veg, but always loved my fruit. Then we went over to Costa Rica, and we caught up with Paul Saladino for a week in his house, and we got into some deep conversations, and I showed him my blood work, and he said, "Oh, I reckon you're following low carbohydrate diet." And I said, no, I'm not following low carb at all. I do all of these things. And then he said, go when you get back to Australia. He said, track your calories for a week or so, and track your macros. And lo and behold, I realized I was actually a very low carbohydrate diet, because I was always been lean, right? And I wanted to put on weight, or more weight, because I want to put on a little bit more muscle, because I think muscle is super important as we age. And so I then started to increase my carbohydrates by a lot, like, considerably more. Felt a whole heap better, and that was kind of the end of that story. So at the moment, I'm in the camp of whole food, um, predominantly animal-based protein. So I eat meat and fish and eggs, and I like some vegetables. I don't go overboard. Salad greens, no. I just think they're kind of a vessel for pesticides. I'll get sweet potatoes, and the big the big starchy carbs are my favorites because of what I like to do. And then I got some bloods done. So I like to get lots of testing done, because you never know, right? You never know what's actually going on inside. And so when I shifted to this animal-based approach during the kind of low carbohydrate phase, my blood tests came back, and everything was perfect. Like, triglycerides were virtually non-existent. HDL was nice and high. C-reactive protein it was so good. Like, there was nothing there. But LDL was through the roof, like completely through the roof. And I'm talking, 6, 7 times what it should be. And I have a friend who is an animal based doctor, and so we just caught up for a coffee, and I said, look, I've got this going on, and I'm not concerned about this, but I don't quite understand what's going on at the moment, because I'm eating this way. And she said, I think that you fit into this newly discovered paradigm called lean mass hyperresponder. And it's essentially where you're metabolically healthy, you're lean. When you lower your carbohydrates down, you get this trio, this phenomenon that occurs in your blood tests, where triglycerides plummet, HDL, like healthy cholesterol, so they say, increases, but LDL goes through the roof. And it's a very new area, where essentially there are some scientists over, like, there's a Harvard scientist, I think, called Nick Norwitz, and there's his companion called Dave Feldman, are really studying this new approach to cholesterol in terms of, well, is high LDL in the context of a lean mass hyperresponder an issue? And they've just finished or recently completed a clinical study that shows that it isn't. And that goes into, this whole web of information that we've been, I guess, doctored with since we've been born, in terms of you're going to have to avoid fat. You're going to, if you consume too much saturated fat, you're going to get heart disease. It's going to clog your arteries. Cholesterol is going to go through the roof. And then they started to unpack all of this and realize that, hold on, seems to be that the healthiest people have the highest cholesterol. And in terms of lean mass hyperresponders, high LDL at the moment, given these studies, doesn't indicate any risk of any cardiovascular issues whatsoever. And so that was kind of one piece of the puzzle. But then I got DNA tested as well, and I love all this kind of data stuff. So I've had the blood test that said, well, you go low carb, your LDL is going to go up. And testing suggests that high LDL isn't an issue, right? But then I get the DNA test back, and it says, well, hold on a minute. You have a couple of genes there of concern with brain health when we're talking about brain health, and they are ApoE. So these are genes that essentially dictate your risk of neurodegenerative disease, namely cognitive decline in terms of Alzheimer's, and I guess Alzheimer's is the most commonly known term. Now, both of my parents suffered neurodegenerative disease, and they died reasonably early. In terms of, mum was 68, dad was 70. Now, I have two genes here that aren't beneficial for cognitive health. And it also means that I don't process saturated fat very well. So in terms of saturated fat and cholesterol, my body doesn't transport it very well, given these genes. So that's thrown another kind of spanner in the works, in terms of, I used to think, saturated fat's fine, given the fact that I know that I can tolerate it metabolically. Yes, my blood goes all over the place, but I don't get sick ever. I feel great. I can do whatever I want to do, but I'm thinking long term. So the suggestions from DNA testing is that you really do need to do a bit of a swap on your fats, in terms of those saturated fats, which are going to be hard to process for your body to process and could lead to inflammation in the brain. Just swap those with monounsaturated. So instead of lots of butter and lard and tallow and big fatty meats, swap to the olive oils and the avocados, possibly nuts and seeds, fatty fish, in that perspective. And so where I am right now is animal-based. Red meat has taken is still a very important part of my diet, but it's come off the center stage, and now it's like a supporting player. So now it's red meat, it's fish, it's chicken, pork, lamb, all of the above, starchy carbohydrates, a truck ton of fruits, and I'm feeling great. Like sleep is good. All of the metrics are good. Aura ring tracking, bloods, like they're all coming back into alignment. And I just gauge that as, how do I sleep? How do I feel when I wake up? Like, what can I do during the day? Because ultimately, I like just to have a full tank in terms of energy, and just be able to do whatever I want to do, and then go to bed and just repeat the next day. So I'm using lots of tech and tools. I'm tracking with Aura, got the DNA tests, got the blood tests, got hormone tests, got microbiome tests, got heavy metal tests. And I'm having a lot of fun at the moment in feeding all of that into OpenAI, and getting that to extrapolate all of the data and essentially build me personalized nutrition and movement plans based upon the nuances that it's seeing in all of this data, because I can't do it myself.
Look at that. There's a lot of people now going, oh my God. Okay. Where do I start? No, but this is it, right? And there's levels to the health game, right? And it doesn't mean necessarily everyone has to get to that, like where we're at now. Well, let's be honest, we're borderline obsessed. But to be honest, that's a good thing. I don't understand why that's a bad thing, being obsessed with your health, as long as it's not damaging your mental health, your social interactions and stuff. Like whatever you want to call it, I would rather be hyper aware of these things. Yes. Not at all. And even the I just looked at the water filter there you recommended. I've got that as well. You see what I mean? The DNA thing, I should have pulled the trigger on that a year or two ago when you told me. Well, obviously, I'm using the same company, and I'm just waiting to get my results back now. And actually, I get my results from the doctor today when I had my bloods done, and I had the full spectrum. So it'd be interesting to see where they were. My testosterone levels are like off the chart. They were like, they was. I think it was that was the total test. They didn't do my free testosterone last time, which I'm making sure they're doing now because that's really important. But anyway, there's a few things you said then. Firstly, Dave Feldman. I think I might put the video to the end of this thing so people can go and check that out because I had him on last year.
Right.
And some of the experiments he's doing, and they've been getting after it, right? And I think, long story short, he was saying the same. And I know there's what you said then is 6 times higher LDL.
Yeah,
obviously going to be a lot of context and there's a lot of nuance to it. But long story short, if you, like you said, your triglyceride levels were right down. And that's what I've seen. Everyone I've had conversations with, all of these experts, I've had them on. Generally, their LDL is quite high. Their triglycerides are low, right? So, and he was saying something about cholesterol as well on the episode. He was saying he believes that cholesterol may actually be one of those things where it's like it's obviously an essential nutrient where we're overlooking it, where you can cycle dietary cholesterol. Like, and I've been doing this for years. And what I noticed when I add in more cholesterol, not necessarily recommending everyone does this, but when you're at the level we're at, again, you're kind of fine tuning. And I find when I add in more chicken livers or more beef livers, particularly more egg yolks to bump the dietary cholesterol up for like a few weeks. I don't know if you've tried this, but obviously you got to be, careful of certain things. But I think for the most part, it's going to be totally fine. I notice I'm stronger. My recovery levels improve from the gym. My libido actually goes up. So obviously it acts as a steroid hormone in the body, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on there. But also you said something then on what you were saying about food, right? And your blood markers. Because I know last time we touched on the fact that your biomarkers, you were, I think, how are you? I think you were 50, are you 53, 54 now?
53, yeah. I'm
53? Yeah, I think last time it was like you were like 51 or something, and you had the biomarkers of, like they were just insane, weren't they? So
yeah, it was VO2 max. So
VO2 max, that's the one you were talking about, yeah.
So again, tested again, and VO2 max remains the same. So it's good. I mean, it put me basically in a elite category for 21 to 25-year-old cardiovascular fitness. But I've just always moved, and ultimately, when your body feels right, and when something's not wrong. I mean, after all of this crazy blood stuff. I got a coronary arterial scan, so basically a calcium score for the heart, and it came back at 0. So it's just like, it just validates what I already knew or thought I knew in terms of whatever I'm doing. It's working for me, and ultimately, I just don't think you can go that far wrong if you negate a lot of the processed crap out there on the market today and just gravitate to whole foods. And yes, there's a lot of nuance, and people are saying, eating an apple is no different to eating a Cheerios or whatever. I just think that's nonsense.
It is nonsense. It gets taken too far, doesn't it? And
Totally.
on that note, I wanted to ask you as well. I was just thinking then as well. I was thinking when I'm your age, right? Let's say 15 years from now, whenever that is, I can only imagine where I'm going to be with the way tech's moving and stuff. All of a sudden, I can have all this stuff plugged in. It's crazy. It's going to be like something off one of those futuristic films. But you were saying then about red meat, right? Now, I know a lot of people listening to this. I've had the likes of Dr. Ken Berry on, and a lot of people listening, they because it's almost like, let's just be honest, it's almost like a religion now, right? Nutrition.
It is, totally.
It's so divided, and people's beliefs, we all we have this tribal mentality as humans, right?
Yeah.
So you were saying then about red meat, and for your specific body, that's more of like a supporting food now rather than eating that every day. What would you say to the audience in terms of, and low carb, by the way, for the audience, when you track for that week, that because low carb would typically be under about 100 grams. Is where you were at, or were you?
Yeah, I was below. I was like 60 grams a day.
Oh, okay.
So it was way lower than I thought. Now crikey, I'm a regular at the fruitologist because I just love my bananas and my apples and oranges, and I just smash it.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it just feels good. I'm not, low carbohydrate. I'm not a proponent personally. I think that it can mess with hormones. I mean, obviously, there's so much nuance and context in there. And I like to train in the gym, and I cycle everywhere, and I like to walk, and that is fuel. And knowing what I know about being a lean mass hyper responder, when I go low carb, LDL goes through the roof, and I was feeling kind of foggy in the brain when I was in that low carb sphere. The moment I introduced more carbohydrates, it just felt like I was just had access to rocket fuel, and so it works for me. But yes, meat is still like red meat is still massively beneficial. I still think it's probably the most nutrient dense food, bar liver, and we can talk about organs and stuff like that a bit later on. But for a nutritional bang for buck, you can't go past red meat in terms of its ease of just delivering all of the B vitamins and associated nutrients, protein, good fats, all of that, all of those things that are so beneficial to human health. Can't get over that, irrespective of what people think and the dogma I think that has been programmed into us over the years, which again is just follow the money, and you'll find the source of that particular mistruth. But who knows? Yeah, I'm enjoying it at the moment.
And low carbs, right? Let's touch on that as well. And there's a lot of research out there, and I've seen with clients as well in terms of how carbohydrates can be really beneficial. But like you say, there's so much contextual variance, right? And there's also the psychology as well and behaviors which people overlook. And having coached so many people, not all carbs are treated equally, firstly, right?
That's
For
it.
example, when we look at context, you said about an apple earlier.
Yeah.
If you eat fruit on its own, you just have like an apple, for example, it's going to have a massively different impact in
Yeah.
comparison to having an apple or fruit after one of your meals, or even, well, I had another low carb doctor on here, and he was saying, ideally, I don't do this, but before you have like your red meat, you're better
Yeah.
off having it before because if you have it after, it can basically speed up the digestive process and mess up your digestive process of eating the meat and stuff. So, but either way, I think everyone's different. And I think having it with a meal which has got protein and fats or whatever is going to be different, for example, in terms of the blood sugar spike, cravings, hunger, than having it on its own. You know what I mean? But in terms of low carbon, I think people need to understand as well that, like Stu was saying, there's so much variance from person to person with nutrition. That's what blows my mind. Like how you operate and how you perform. Plus, you're lean as well, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, my heart bleeds for you being a lean mass hyper responder.
I know. Tell me about it. You know what it's like. You work hard in the gym, and it's. I could overeat. I could force myself to overeat and try maybe put on a couple of kilos over a month or so. The moment I stop, it's gone the next day. But ultimately, you're just trying to create something that you're never going to be. I mean, I have lots of energy. I sleep well. I can move around and do whatever I want to do, and still enjoy training, and will continue to do that until I die, no doubt.
Listen up, I've just created a brand new nutrition and fat loss blueprint, which I'm going to give to you in my audience. I could definitely sell this, and it's taken me a lot of time. Please grab it because it's literally got everything in there when it comes to a calorie and macro calculator. It's got a nutrition meal plan in there, shopping list, how to overcome binge eating, intuitive eating, everything there you need to lose fat, keep it off, and optimize your metabolic health. Please grab this. Trust me, it's gold. The link is beneath in the show notes. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
I think I just got to accept who I am.
100%, man. 100%. That's it. And yeah, just going back to that. So low carb, you're not a big fan in general for most people. And I always say the same thing. Like in general, there's a lot of, like we say, variants, and obviously certain people who have had, maybe, really overweight or whatever, perhaps maybe going low carb for a little bit might help them detach from foods, which make them overeat. But it all comes down to the same thing we always talk about, right, Stu? If you're having refined sugar and ultra processed foods, those type of carbohydrates, which are combined with fats and the perfect texture, probably a little bit of salt to make them highly palatable, so you eat the hell out of them. Very different to eating single ingredient foods, right?
Well, it's totally different. Like instead of going low carb, I would consider ditching low quality foods, because ultimately, if you gravitate towards whole foods, then the apple's going to do something quite different than the cookie or the the bag of biscuits or the bag of chips, and all of these things. I mean, yes, you've got fiber and you've got lots of nutrients in there, and you've got vitamins and minerals as well, but it's very hard to overeat whole foods, as you know. I mean, tuck into an orange, like there's lots of fiber in there and all of the pith and all the goodness that an orange goes. Try and eat 5 of those oranges. Like, forget it. It's impossible. But smash an energy drink that's got tons of sugar and orange flavored. like you can keep going with that kind of stuff, and that's where the issue is. I think people if they have issues with food, it generally comes down to the quality of food that they're eating. And I always say to a lot of people who want to make adjustments to their diet, look at the ingredients, pull out anything with vegetable oil. Like, it's a great place to start, because the majority of processed and packaged foods have vegetable oil on it. And as you know, from your sauces and your snacks and your biscuits and whatever it might be, even the healthy condiments like hummus and tahini and whatever it might be that you have your healthy chips and dips in there, they'll all be loaded with vegetable oil. If you gravitate to the natural variants, things just get better. Like, and they do time and time and time again, and your palate changes as you know, and you just start to veer away from all of these Franken foods that you realize were kind of holding you back from whatever health goal you may have.
Definitely. There's so much to be said for food quality. And I know we touched on this last time, but let's get into it now. The fiber thing, right? We know
Yeah.
dietary fiber, it's not an essential nutrient, but it can help. And you were saying about vegetables earlier. I've actually started bringing in greens, but more the low FODMAP ones.
Yeah.
I know it's the lower FODMAP. I believe they're lower FODMAP anyway, but they work for my digestion either way. Spinach, cooked properly. Like you mentioned about salads earlier.
Yeah.
There's a big difference as well, right? Between eating raw plants and cooking them properly, right?
Yeah, totally. Look, absolutely. And I think it's a really tricky one, especially if you have taken the stance to, I'm going to exclude this food group because I think it's bad. And some, rightly so, like, experiment and just test and learn, see what works for you. But if you decide, for instance, bread, right? Now, I don't eat bread and haven't eaten bread for a long time. It just doesn't make me feel great. And I know, and of course, you can't unlearn what you've learned over the years in terms of podcasting and research. And you realize that grains do some, non-beneficial things to the body because of the way they're processed and sprayed, etc. But if you exclude grains, let's say for 3 or 4 months, and then you have a slice of bread, well, your microbiome has changed over that time. And all of a sudden, it's not as supportive from a digestive standpoint to be able to facilitate digestion for whatever now you've decided to consume again. So it does, it's going to take a little bit of time. And like you said, like, don't jump into it. Like, ease yourself in, figure out what works for you, figure out what doesn't, because vegetables, there's a whole spectrum of, like you mentioned, low FODMAP. Raw, on the other hand, all the way through to sautéed and however you want to do it. Slow cooked veg, like we do a lot of slow cooking here, and we'll bunch a whole heap of veg in there. And some veg are more beneficial for microbiome and digestive health than others. So I eat lots of onions and garlic and things like that. You just have to test and learn and go slowly. I think that this whole reductionist theory, it can be damaging, and you come at it from the standpoint that you know a whole lot more than I do in terms of the psychology behind food and disorders that come about from that. But at the end of the day, we're pretty robust as human beings, and consuming the occasional salad is not going to break us like at all. But it's just lifelong habits. Like, if you decide that you want to get up and have oats every morning for the rest of your life, well, then there will be ramifications to that in terms of nutrients maybe that you're missing out on, blood sugar fluctuations, and there are better ways to start your day. But at the end of the day, if you fancy some oats when you post-workout shake or whatever, I mean, it's probably gonna be beneficial for you, because it's a carbohydrate at the end of the day, and it's a building block of muscle.
100%. And there's something you said before. I think you wrote an article on it before about eating what you have for dinner for breakfast. I hope you do this with clients, but that's the way I frame it now, right? It's still from you. And I talked about this client recently. I've had a few clients recently where, he joined the program. To be fair, he was eating good quality foods. He was having a smoothie. He was having a smoothie in the morning, bit of protein in there. And then he was having his 2 meals, but he wasn't having like a real complete meal in the morning, because a smoothie, bit of protein powder, you can do that, right, in terms of minerals and essential nutrients. So I said, right, let's have steak and eggs, right? Let's start there and see how you feel, just to keep it. I said, could you eat that for breakfast though? And he's like, yeah, man, I'll do that. And like, he just, now when he gets to lunch, he's like, I'm not hungry. I have to force
Yeah.
myself to eat lunch. He's an entrepreneur, very successful guy here. And he's like, I'm more productive. I'm not
Yeah.
thinking an hour or two later, I've got to eat. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and he's having double the protein naturally as well, right? Because he's having steak and eggs, maybe even
Yeah.
triple.
Totally. And if breakfast looks like typical breakfast, you're in trouble. Like you
Mm.
just are in trouble. I mean, my my breakfast will not look any different to my lunch, and it won't look any different to my dinner. Typically, breakfast is leftover dinner, but it always includes eggs. It always includes lots of meat. There'll be some boiled veg in there somewhere, and I like a smoothie as well. But I'll have that smoothie after my breakfast. I just like to get the collagen and the creatine in there, and that works for me in terms of my goals. But certainly, yeah, breakfast needs to change. And also on the topic of low carbohydrate and fasting, I mean, people that are skipping breakfast as well. I mean, what's your perspective on that? Because I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, right? Because I actually do that myself,
Yeah,
but I feel fine doing it. Now, would I do better? It's interesting, actually. I noticed in terms of even, I know obviously I'm pretty big anyway, right? But I noticed
yeah,
muscle gain. And I actually noticed when I had that extra meal. But for me, I only do it because it's like, it's an interruption, right? So for me, for
yeah,
example, this morning I trained, it's only like 9:30 a.m. now, but I'm not hungry. So I'll have black coffee.
yeah.
That probably blunts my appetite a bit and I get
Right,
more work done. And then I'll
right.
tend to, what I've been doing, I said to my audience, right, I've been a bit of a dark chocolate fanatic. I cut it out this week. I made the
Yeah,
mistake of buying it in bulk. Now, you know this anyway. I tell clients not to do this. In fact, I didn't even
yeah,
go because I was like, I don't want to promote that. It's a
yeah,
cool idea. It was a good quality one. There's Alter Ego one here because, you know, they got the heavy metals. And anyway,
yeah,
cut it out now this week, right? So I'm just having the two meals. Yesterday, I think, yeah, I had two meals as well. But that works for me most of the time. But for most people, cutting out breakfast is a really good point. The answer is no. Now, for me, obviously, I want to say I've got a healthy, I know what true hunger feels like, right? Because I've done all those bodybuilding comps and everything else. And when I start getting hungry, I eat, basically.
yeah,
I don't push through it anymore. So I think that's the key thing. But yeah, most people having breakfast in the morning, and most important thing is having protein for breakfast. Because most people, they actually don't. They have like low protein breakfast, like you say. It's normally processed stuff, normally without even real.
Mm,
It might be some bread, or it might just be an incomplete meal. It
that's
might
right.
be some bread and avocado. It might be some cereal, of course, oats, like you say.
Yeah,
And you're not getting protein in to kickstart your day. And if you don't do that, you're going to be hungrier. And more importantly, you're just not going to be able to get enough protein in for the whole day. Because lunchtime, people have a little bit of protein in general. Dinner, they eat more protein. So if you can change that for breakfast, right, it's a big win.
yeah. It's a game changer. And you know, I hunt for protein because I know what my goals are, which is essentially to to retain my muscle mass as I age, because I think
Mm.
that's the key to being resilient. Is to be able to easily get off the toilet and carry shopping bags, and farmers carry from the car into the house, and climb stairs with ease. And I believe that if I want to be doing that when I'm 80, then I need to retain and build my muscle now, 20, 30 years before. And if you're not eating enough protein, then that's going to be pretty hard. I mean, it's missing the key component, I think, in muscle growth. So for me, it's always, I aim for, I mean, I weigh 72 kilos, and I try and push that a little bit further, but it doesn't happen. So I aim for about 150 grams of protein a day. And I split that between 3 meals and just 50 grams of protein. And I'll have whatever my breakfast is, which is always like a meat feast for breakfast, but I'll finish that off with a collagen and creatine smoothie at the end, which adds another 20 or 30 grams of protein in there. And I understand that collagen isn't the best form of protein for muscle mass, but it's not a bad protein for connective joints and tissue as you age as well. So that's kind of what I do. But it's for me, it's all about just an awareness of the importance of protein, and the amount that I really need to try and consume for me personally. And then I can just vary the meals based upon that. Like, oh no, for instance, if I have a fish fillet for dinner, that's not enough protein. I need to kind of get that elsewhere. So I'm going to need to consume something a little bit different, or in
Mm.
addition to that. So yeah, it's all about the protein.
It's all about the protein, man. And you just touched on something that I don't want to skim over. You said about the reduction method. How
Yes.
do you want to frame that? Reduction, restriction. And actually fasting, this is something that's overlooked.
Yeah.
Psychologically, that's another form of restriction. What
Yeah.
fasting doing is taking away food. I'm not going to eat.
Mm.
It's been proven it doesn't work. That approach does not work as a long-term strategy for weight loss in particular. It just doesn't work. So I actually created a whole workshop on this at the start of the year called the Empowered Eating Blueprint, right?
Right.
And it's funny because actually even my mother, this is my approach with clients. It's the only approach that works. Is going back to what you said. It's adding in better quality foods, adding
Yeah.
in more protein if they're under eating it, and it's not complicated, and more nutrient dense foods. So my mum, she can't digest. She's got like this quite nasty autoimmune illness, so she can't digest all the foods properly. But she's been managing to eat a bit of beef. She's been having like just one egg a day.
Yeah.
I got her this really good quality protein powder from back home, so she's been having that whey protein to get that in. She drinks. Luckily, she drinks milk. She digests that fine, right?
Right.
That's another thing as well. Red
Yeah.
meat, milk. If you're having good quality milk in particular, that's got pretty much all the nutrients you need in it, right? So she's having that as well. And then naturally, what's happened is what happens to most people. She stopped having the desire to eat as much as she used to eat loads of sweets. She still has some here and there, but she loads of sweets like every day. It was just like devoid
Yeah.
of nutrients. She's nutrient deficiency left, right, and center probably. Now, naturally, even my mother's got to that point at like 63 where she's like, yeah, I just don't have the desire as much over time to eat
That's
those
right.
foods.
Exactly right. That's why you do it. And I mean, you touched on nutrient deficiency, and I think irrespective of the type of diet that you're following, you're either accessing the nutrients that the body needs or you're not. So sure, you could be following a beautiful vegetarian diet that works for you at that time, but you're either accessing the nutrients that your body needs or you're not. And I know it's very hard to get quality proteins in the right amounts from a vegetarian diet, without ingesting a truck ton of legumes and synthetic proteins and things like that. But ultimately, for me, it's still in the back of my mind. I'm thinking nutrients. Like, where am I going to get my vitamin A and D, and where am I going to get my fat solubles? So I'm going to pull in some sardines into the meal today, or make sure that I have enough eggs. I mean, that's all like organs. I mean, that's ancestral nutrition, right? That's why we created the organ company, because it's just another easy way to consume everything that I currently consume, but I can have the goodness of organs, because I know that it's like a garden. You need certain conditions for a garden to grow, and the body as well. You need certain conditions for the body to thrive, whether it be hair growth, skin health, digestive health, muscle growth, cognitive clarity, deep sleep, recovery after exercise. You need those building blocks, and so I'm always aware that this reductionist theory oftentimes crowds out lots of essential things that perhaps you do still need, which is why, like you said, I'm adding in a few more vegetables, because you're probably in the back of your mind, you're thinking the same thing. There is probably a requirement for some of those nutrients somewhere.
Mm.
And,
But also, just on that as well, sorry to interrupt you there. The
yeah,
main reason I do it is just to blunt my appetite as well. I think that's overlooked,
okay,
right? So if I had some greens to my plate, yeah, I'm
yeah,
getting some nutrients, might be getting a bit of magnesium, some vitamins,
yeah,
those kind of things. But I do it mainly just because white rice for me, in terms of starchy carbohydrates, that's the only starchy carb I eat. Pumpkin's okay as well, but potatoes just don't work for me. I can have a little bit, but there's a
yeah.
very fine line. It's just too risky. So I stick to white rice. But the thing is with white rice, it's quite calorie dense, right? So you can eat a lot of
Yeah,
it pretty fast, especially when you're
yeah,
hungry. So if I had a bunch of greens like green beans, zucchini, and spinach are my
yeah,
favorites, add them, and then it just blunts my appetite more. I've got more volume on my plate, so it takes
yeah.
longer to eat my meal. That's a big thing people overlook as well. It's the speed you eat in, and
Totally.
actually chewing your food as well is a big part of the digestion process.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I think on that as well, it's one of the ones where everything we're talking about here is you need to do your best to actually blunt hunger, right? And protein, going back to that, fiber can really help with that, right? Particularly, I think I look at non-starchy carbs, like I just mentioned the greens, and you mentioned some earlier. I think you mentioned about what was it, garlic, onions, those kind of things, and non-starchy.
yeah,
Balancing it, look at them as more. I think I look at meats, I look at animal-based foods, I
yeah,
look at even fruit as well. I look at that as health, performance, recovery, pretty much everything, ticking most of the boxes, and
yeah,
then I'll add them in just to blunt appetite. I may as a side effect of that, bump up certain nutrients that may be suboptimal,
Yeah.
the non-starchy carbs. And I look at the starchy carbs then as the white rice. And I know you said you eat some, is it potatoes you eat in starchy? Or
Yeah, lots of yeah. I mean, I'm an Englishman at heart. Like
Paladino must be annoyed at you, man, eating those potatoes.
I got
He's a
potatoes in
crap
my
before, wouldn't
DNA.
he?
Yeah, I do. Like I do love potatoes. It's and like you said, it's about knowing that you've got protein, fat, carbohydrates, and fiber. And when you have a complete meal and you have enough of all of those components, then you're going to feel truly satisfied and satiated at the end of the day. And that is going to burn. That's that slow burning fuel that we want to access, rather than, you know what, I'm going to go out and have sushi for lunch, which we know is heavily sweetened right rice with just the hint of protein wrapped in the middle there. And that's, yeah, might be great as a little post workout snack, but it's not a meal.
No,
Like,
definitely not. And even when you go and try and have like the healthier sushi, they still add sugar to it. They still add stuff.
oh, that's
It's never
right.
going to be the same.
No.
You mentioned, because I want to touch on that as well. Potassium, when you're having potatoes, really. That's why I did an episode on, when I got absolutely shredded for the stage, right? And if I wanted to really lose a significant amount of weight, potatoes would be up there, but obviously I can't digest them as well nowadays. But I do
Yeah.
believe, and that's another thing as well, when you're in a calorie deficit, when you're burning more than you're eating, or when you're at least not in a surplus, it makes a big difference then as well to how your ability to digest food. So that's another
Yeah.
bit of context there. But potassium as well, especially sweet potatoes, right? You're going to get a big hit of that when you're eating those, which is really, and I think a lot of people who eat low carb. I actually just had a chat with a client yesterday. He's carnivore. He's come through and he eats strict carnivore. So looking with him, so I said, I told him to have some, what was it called? The bloody, the tartar, cream of tartar to get his
Oh,
potassium
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that, like to get a big hit of potassium, mix that with salt, and rather than buying electrolytes, which are expensive, right? Do that, because obviously if you're not eating bananas, you're not having avocados, especially potatoes, for potassium, and that balance between sodium and potassium, especially if you're low carbs, your
Yeah.
cells get dehydrated. I see it
Well,
all the
that's
time,
right.
and you feel
Well,
terrible.
Saladino used to cramp because he realized that I'm not accessing those electrolytes that I need, because he was also very active and liked to surf and do all of the things that he did prior to his dietary change. But he realized that when he introduced fruit, he got access to all of the electrolytes that he needed to stop these kind of crazy cramps. But again, like everything, I mean, it's just having an awareness of it. I mean, I'll get up in the morning and I'll have the first thing I do is I have 2 glasses of water, squeeze of lemon, and sea salt. Mix it together, and that's how I rehydrate in the morning. But it's just awareness that I know I'm going to be training early. I know that I obviously don't drink over the course of the night, and it's good for the digestive system as well. Like, it's just an introduction to the new day, I guess.
I might
Which,
actually switch back to that. It's a good point you said that, right? Because it just reminded me now. I used to do that. I used to have the just water, lemon, salt, covered
yeah,
everything pretty much. But now I'm
yeah,
paying for these electrolytes. I'm like, this is costing me a lot of money, man. What am I doing?
yeah,
I just switch back to base. I know the bit of potassium in there can help with the absorption,
yeah.
the hydration and stuff. But it's kind of splitting
I,
it. You get,
I got onto the electrolyte bandwagon. We did a trade show with Ancestral Nutrition about 3 months ago, like back in Melbourne, and there was a crowd there that we partnered with who in like the electrolyte space, and they gave me a load of electrolytes, and so I thought, wow, this is great. And every morning I ripped a sachet open and poured it in, stirred it, and it was great. But then when you look at the cost of that versus what you can get with salt, lemon, and water, I just gravitate to the whole foods, because you're always going to get some flavoring in there, and
yeah, exactly.
there's going to be a little bit of sucralose, and that's not great for the gut
That's
uh,
it.
in the long term. Um, yeah, keep it simple. I
That's
just think,
it. Even the ones I use, right? They use stevia, but that's
yeah,
a very sneaky one. They're the natural flavors. That even
yeah,
got me for a while. That one, because I see the word natural, I just skim over it.
that's
I'm
right.
like, natural. That's such a sneaky one. That one, isn't it? What are
Yeah,
natural flavors? And if you're not telling me what it is,
no, that's right. Natural flavor. Yeah, I mean, crikey, that could be a proprietary blend in and of itself with
True.
10 ingredients to try and get that flavoring composition. But Yeah, you can't beat natural flavoring when you cut the lemon yourself. Like that's a
And that's
no.
it. You know what? That's again implementation, right? Now
Yeah.
you said that, I'll switch fit over to the salt and lemon. I'll get rid of the other. Save me a killing, man. You know,
Yeah.
we just got a bloody, we just got an investment property here now, so we'll talk anyway after this. But yeah,
Brilliant.
I got to be mindful now about the money. You know what I mean? But anyway,
Yeah.
I was going to say, so I want to touch on your supplements and everything else, but just to
Yeah.
wrap it up, I wanted to touch on building muscle.
Yes.
You said it's hard for you to build muscle. And also, when it comes to gut health, I remember
Yeah.
before when you took out a lot of those, compounds in the plants that were
Yeah.
irritating your gut, you built
Yeah.
muscle. Forget about building muscle if you haven't gut inflammation anyway. It's not going to happen. So, tell me about like building muscle because people overcomplicate this.
Mm,
Really, you need to do around about 10 to 20 sets on each body part a week.
mm,
Really, you want to hit every body part twice in a week, which I know you were doing like full body, so you're covering that.
yeah.
But even sometimes less is more. Like any more than 5 sets on one body part in a workout is too much for
Mm,
most. And then it's just stopping short of failure. If you're hitting the body parts at least twice in a week, don't go to
yeah.
failure. No, it's quite
Well,
simple.
I switched it up about 6 months ago and moved into a 5 day, so Monday to Friday, German volume routine.
Oh, 10 sets of 10.
And
Oh,
I was doing five fives.
okay. That's a different type then.
Well,
Yeah.
or sorry, 10 5. So I was doing like 10
Brutal.
reps, five exercises, five movements. So
Okay. So it's
two,
10 reps. Yeah. Just to clarify, because that's German volume.
yeah, so 10 repetitions,
Yeah.
10 repetitions, 5 times in a set
Okay.
with
5.
five body parts. So,
Okay.
so let's just say Monday was, let's say, chest. So I'm doing dumbbell, let's say, so dumbbell press, flat, incline, decline, flies, and then whatever else I'd throw into there. And I'm doing 5 sets, 10 repetitions.
Okay. So sorry. So 5 sets of 10. Okay. 5 sets, 50 reps in total for the chest
Yes,
on a
yes,
day, for example. Yeah.
yeah, that's
International
right.
chest day.
Super slow, like
Yeah.
as you know. So
Time and
it's really
attention.
like 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down, like and
Okay.
like that was a game changer for me until after about 2 or 3 months I just hated it and I just thought I just can't stand coming to the gym anymore. And then that
Oh,
never happened.
hey, forget about it on leg day, man.
Or leg day, absolutely. So
Oh,
leg day was the squat, the deadlift, the lunges, Bulgarian split squats, calf raises, leg extensions, like all of the above. And I mean, I cycle to and from the gym, and I could barely get on the bike, let alone cycle the bike afterwards. Um, Subsequently, after I did that and got a little bored, I reverted back to your program: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body, like three days a week. The DNA stuff said, you know what? You can't be training every day because your recovery mechanisms are sluggish. You need 24 hours in between. And I feel much better now at 3 days a week. And all I'm doing now is I'm focusing more on compound movements. I really enjoy the compound exercises, but I'm avoiding certain exercises like the back squat and the deadlift because I have a few twinges in my lower back. So I'm doing like a super wide hack squat now, which I really enjoy. And I can really feel it in the quads and the glutes and just compound exercises I love. Still, again, probably in the 6 to 8 rep range. Still doing 5 or 6 exercises on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But pulling in some of the old school, like I'll do like a weighted pull up, I'll do weighted dips, I'll do I still do a lot of the dumbbell bench over barbell.
mhm.
I just like the idea that I'm working other stuff. Farmers carries, heavy like 32 kg kettlebells, and I just walk up and down, walking down some sled stuff, and that's working well for me. And yeah, putting on, still retaining muscle, like, which is great. Putting on a little bit of muscle, tiny bit of weight. I mean, it's a slow
Mm,
process. People think you can
very
get in
slow.
and turn it around in three months. Forget it. Like,
100%.
takes a long time.
20 years I've been at it now. And for me now, I
Yeah,
look at it more, it's just like mental and emotional health mainly. I love training.
yeah,
That's the main, but I still like to look great. I'm just going to be honest here, right? I'm not going to
of
like,
course. Who
oh, it's
doesn't?
all of, who doesn't?
Yeah,
Exactly. But for me, it's now I was just thinking of this when I was training earlier. I'm just trying to maintain. If I wanted to build, it would be a project for me now, right? Because I've been lifting for like 20. I mean, I could still build, but it means more time. So for me,
Yeah,
I want to do maximum results now in terms of like keeping my body looking sharp. More
yeah,
importantly, just maintaining strength for minimum time. That's the way I look at it, right?
yeah.
But
Minimum effective dose every time.
100%. But this is not, I want to talk on this right before we wrap it up. Is you were doing gym and volume training right for 2 3
Yeah,
months.
yeah,
95% of people, 90% of people, even that's going to be way too much volume. If unless you're like maybe a young lad in your 20s or something, or
yeah,
even younger, where you've got like it's like being on natural steroids or that. Or if you're taking a bunch of steroids and you're dialing in your nutrition and lifestyle, you could probably manage that. But like 95% of people, look at all the things you've dialed in, right?
yeah,
And even then, it's like
yeah,
even so, though, I think the fact that you changed that, I know you were hating the workouts, but
yeah.
I think after about 3 months of that anyway, you're better off switching gears because it's a
Yes,
lot of volume, and then obviously your body adapts anyway, right? So
it does. It does. And I had I had a program that I did. I swapped the program every 4 weeks.
mm,
So just different variants. So where maybe
this
there'd
way.
be some cable for back, I'd be doing more maybe barbell stuff for back or dumbbell stuff for back. And yeah, it was just taking too long. Um, I knew what was ahead of me. I'd get into the gym and think, oh God, I've got to do this for, X amount of time now. And I'm like you, I'm into this minimum effective dose. Like, what can I do? Which is why I like the compound exercises, because I know that I haven't strapped myself into a machine and it's only going to work this muscle in this way. I've got stability going on and I need to brace myself. And I think the compound stuff is more in tune with everyday life. Like I said before, I got to lift those bags out of the car and get them into the house. And I mean, as silly as it sounds, like my wife comes in and she's got loaded the boot with shopping bags. My goal is to see if I can get all of those shopping bags into the house in one go. So I'll have like 8 shopping bags per arm, and then I'm going up the driveway, and it's just like, hey, I can do this. This is just a farmer's carry.
Love it, and that's it. That's an underrated exercise, farmers carry. One of the most
Yeah,
underrated. Obviously, when we talk about longevity, quick one on that. So VO2 max. Do you do any cardio?
I walk, and
You walk,
I think
cycling.
yeah, I cycle, but I mean, I have cycled literally since I could walk, like forever, like 50 years. Cycling for me, I don't do any competitive cycling. I don't do a huge amount of recreational cycling. It is transport for me. Um, in terms of the cardio stuff, I mean, I get the cardio pump in lifting weights. I get the cardio pump in the sauna, and I'll do 10 to 15,000 steps a day. And that's all I had to do to maintain that VO2 max, strangely.
This
Um,
is. I'm glad you said this, right? Because I always had this debate. It doesn't make sense to me. I haven't had my VO2 max tested though. I should do it now. That's the next step for me. But
yeah,
lifting weights, right? Your heart rate's up when you're doing it properly. Your heart rate's up for sustained periods. When you do it
yeah,
properly, it's cardio. Like when you, especially
totally.
even when you. The funny thing is when you're lifting heavy weights as well. When you're doing low reps, heavier weights, my heart rate goes up way higher than if I'm
Yeah,
doing generally if I'm doing higher reps. So you
yeah.
get a lot of those benefits. Obviously, you're moving a lot anyway. So you're in that zone two ish
Mm,
kind of type. And I know I don't do any cardio. And if I went and did like jujitsu or something now, I'm going to be one of the fittest guys there. So work that one out, right? I can keep going. I've
yeah,
got an engine, and the heart, the benefits on your heart as well from strength training. There's research to show even like the fat that builds up around the heart.
yeah.
Strength training is the only one that reduces both of them, whereas cardio just reduces one of them. It strengthens your heart as well. But I feel like looking at cardio as well, it transfers. So with you, naturally, you're fit, you've got high VO2 max. That
Mm,
transfers into strength training. Then you have better, more
yes.
productive workouts. And
Well, that's right.
I think people overdo cardio and it interferes with strength.
And
Sorry.
absolutely. And my goal is to maintain muscle mass because I believe muscle mass makes you more resilient. And as you age, it's harder to keep hold of that muscle mass. I don't want to lose that muscle mass by pounding the streets running like that. There's smarter ways to do cardio. And like I mentioned before, I think walking is hugely, hugely underrated as just an exercise for longevity and cardiovascular fitness as well. I mean, walk up a hill, walk upstairs. Like I just think this continual pounding. I've got lots of friends who love endurance training and love these long runs, but they don't have any muscle. And I don't believe. I mean, your body just adapts to what you do most of, right? And if you're going to run a lot, then it's going to lean up to make it easier for you to do that. much like if you're going to lift weights, it's going to build muscle to make it easier for you to continue to do that. So I take running with a pinch of salt. I can run like easily. I just choose not to because I just think walking is the no brainer, and lifting weights, throw them in the sauna, and I mean the proof is in the pudding with VO2 max results, and also all the heart stuff, the heart scans, the biometrics that you're going to get from your blood reports. They're all pointing to the fact that whatever I'm doing is working for me. And I get that there's nuance, and you know, other people can try other things, and it may work in their favor too. But you just got to find out what that is. But I think from a bang for buck scenario, just getting more daily steps in is going to fix a lot of people's issues.
100%. And saunas over cold therapy any day. If I like,
Oh yeah.
well, this off air real quick, right? Just to wrap this up with the cold therapy, I stopped doing it because I joined this place nearby, and it's like you're a member there, right? So I got to make the most of it. So I'm doing as many as I can, obviously, right, to make the most. And mate, like everything was great with my sleep recovery, perfect. Start doing ice baths, just going downhill. I thought, right, I'll play it out a bit longer. I'll scale it back. Just it's too much. Like I'll have a cold shower every morning. I just want to do it, and I want that resilience and all the benefits. But I think it's overrated. Like I need to have more saunas. Saunas, I mean, heat shock proteins, even Alzheimer's, right? And just sweating it if you. It's basically like doing cardio on top of that.
Yep. That's I mean, exactly right. I mean, I use sauna for brain health and detoxification mainly. And yes, there are plenty of other benefits, heart health and like heat shock, as you said, muscle maintenance, etc. But yeah, cold therapy. I mean, boy, there's a lot of cortisol going on there. I just don't think that we need to tell our body that we are dying that frequently. And for a lot of people, we have gyms up here that have classes that are weights and then ice. I think that's just ridiculous.
Because the research shows as well. It's terrible. It just it dampens your body's natural the inflammatory response and recovery response.
Yeah, it's just wrong way around. Like if you're going to do that, maybe do it first.
Right? But I hated it, man. I did it first, right? I did that,
not fun.
Mate, it's no pump.
No, that's it.
What I had when I went into the gym. I'm like, I got zero pump. This is terrible. And I feel more alert, but like, I mean, it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, as a dopamine hit, like yes, if you want to do it on a Saturday morning as a start to a weekend where you're not going to be training and you're going to be out in the sun, and like it's good.
Yeah, you feel great.
I wouldn't be doing it every day. I wonder about that amount of, I guess that shock to the body, continual like cortisol load. Do we need to be scaring ourselves that much? I mean, I get in and I'm lean as anything, very little body fat, and it hurts me to get in that ice bath. Like I'd much rather crawl into a nice warm sauna.
Yeah, 100%, man. And you're doing pretty well, right? So yeah, the cold shower, I just do that in the mornings because I think Huberman talked about I've been doing it for years anyway. It's just because I don't want to do it. I get up and it makes me sharp for the gym then. I'm trying to switch that from caffeine, so I have the caffeine after. But mate, just to wrap this up as well, tell the audience, where we can find you. And also, what I need to do now, I'm going to cut the electrolytes out, the money I spend on that. I need to get more of those bull's testicles, right?
Oh, yes.
Have that bull's testicle. Mate, for testosterone levels, man, that stuff works for real.
Yeah, that's
strength. It's pretty freaky.
That is a game changer. We trialed that stuff. So when we caught up with Saladino, and Saladino said, "Man, you've got to try and get on the bull's testicle." So we have a company called Ancestral Nutrition. So it's basically freeze-dried beef organs, the big players: liver, heart, kidney, spleen. We didn't do testicle. It's an organ that's very hard to get. Obviously, they're small compared to the big liver, but it offers nutrients that are very hard to get anywhere else. It's a food source that contains it's a food source that provides a food source of natural testosterone, as well as other natural sex hormones. I trialed it on myself for months and then started to trial it on my friends in the gym. And the comments that I had, like one guy just came in and said, "I just feel like Wolverine. Like, what on earth have you given me? Because I'm lifting like I've never lifted before." And I actually put on a reasonable amount of muscle mass over the probably 3 or 4 months that I was trialing it. So yeah, that again, it's one of these things that back in the archives, if you dive in, the Roman gladiators used to consume bull's testicle before they went into battle because it made them feel strong. And it's a hard feeling to try and verbalize. In fact, when you introduce this compound into your diet and you do what you do in the gym and what I do in the gym, you just feel so different. I had the only way that I can try and verbalize this in terms of how my strength train, we have a fly machine in the gym, and it's one where you've got like a stack of weights, and you sit down and you grab it, and basically it's a pec fly thing. And I used to go in and I'd go down to maybe, I think it was like 80 kilograms, and it goes to 90. And I would do 4 sets of maybe 6 to 8 on 80 kilograms. And then I got this bull's testicle and was taking it for a couple of months. And I was loading up on creatine as well, because I love creatine for brain health. And it's beneficial for muscle, as you know. But I got to the stage where I was just on this fly machine. It was my only method that I could use to kind of track my improvement in strength. But I had it on the stack, and I could do 4 sets of 30 on the stack. And it's so much so I just stopped. I just thought I could do these forever. And we had this guy in the gym who was really like, he was the German volume enthusiast, like real scientist in terms of all of these crazy variations that he used to do to all of his workouts. And he would just, I trialed it on him and I tried it on a number of people, and he would just come in and he'd point to this guy who just walked through the door and he said, "You're on it, aren't you? You're on it. I can tell." there was like this underground Fight Club network of stories about, oh my God, have you seen what I can do? And so that's just another indication, I think, of there are nutrients that we can access that we don't, that can be beneficial in some way, which is why with the beef organs, like they become so popular, because they offer access to such a broad spectrum of nutrients that we generally don't get, because our food system's been depleted and the quality of food that we eat is just in decline. So that's the bull's testicle. I knew that it would work out well for you because of what you do and who you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good fun.
I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to order some more, man, for sure, because I tried to cycle it.
Yeah.
I like to gauge, okay, how much, you know what I mean? So I'll come off it. Okay, is it making a difference? Yeah, it is. But I'll cycle off it from, and then I don't know how it works with tolerance and stuff as well. Probably not a big deal of difference, but
yeah, I cycle things anyway, just because, gut health is such a big topic, and I'm pretty sure that most of us have a compromised gut in some way, shape, or form. So cycling stuff makes sense, because you don't want that in your system every single day, because you could build up an intolerance if you have leaky gut. So yeah, I'm kind of on and off in that respect. But yeah, it's good fun. We keep tweaking here and there.
Exactly, man. It's constant fine tuning, right? Like a finely oiled machine. You know what I mean? I was going to say then. So where can the audience find? Is it Ancestral, like Instagram? We'll put it in the show anyway.
So a couple of places. So for the podcast, it is just thehealthsessions.com.au. Type that in, and that has its own website, and you'll have access to the whole library back catalogue there. We've got some great conversations. And then you'll find me on ancestralnutrition.com.au, or on Instagram. I think it's ancestral_nutrition. So we're very active in that respect in terms of educating. We've got a bunch of nutritionists on the team as well. So we're really digging deep into lots of people's problems with energy problems, iron deficiencies, nutrient deficiencies. So we've got a good team of researchers there that are putting out lots of great information, and we have a lot of fun. So yeah, come by, say hello, and if you have any questions, reach out, and we'd love to connect with you.
Awesome stuff, man. I'll put the is it cool to put the ancestral stuff in the show notes, just in case people want?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. Great to catch up, Stu. Thanks for your time.
Fantastic. Thank you, mate. You take care.
Cheers, mate.